Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him and we thank Him that we are able to meet again. Of course, we would have switched from Wednesday, and now we are, of course, on a Tuesday night. So, inshallah, of course, and Ramadan is just a few weeks away. After today, we may have just 3 classes before the month of Ramadan. As usual, we would pause our classes during the month of Ramadan and resume after Eid al-Fitr, inshallah ta'ala. Right? Today, we want to continue and finish off lesson 14. All right? So, as usual, I will just read over the passage to begin. All right? Is there anyone with a question before we read over? Also, does anyone want to read before I read? Okay, so let's read. Please follow in the books or on screen. الدرس الرابع عشرة. الدرس الرابع عشرة. المدرس من بالباب؟ طالب. أنا طالب جديد. المدرس ادخل. ما اسمك؟ الطالب اسمي همايون. المدرس همايون. كيف تكتب هذا الاسم؟ اكتبه على هذه الورقة. الطلاب يا أستاذ ها هنا عقرب. المدرس عقرب في الفصل؟ أين هي؟ الطلاب انظر هنا يا أستاذ هي تحت مكتب هشام. المدرس اقتلوها يا إخوان. الطلاب بما نقتلها؟ المدرس اقتلها بحذائك يا هشام. أماتت؟ هشام نعم ماتت. المدرس اجلسوا يا أبنائي. اقرأ الدرس يا علي. علي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. خلق الإنسان من علق. يا أستاذ حفظت هذه السورة. أي سورة أحفظ بعدها؟ المدرس احفظ سورة التين. خذ دفترك هذا واكتب فيه سورة العلق. يا أبا بكر إنك نعسان. اذهب إلى الحمام واغسل وجهك. افتح النوافذ يا عبد الله فإن الغرفة مظلمة والجو حار. So this is the passage. Of course, we said in this chapter we are being introduced to the Fi'lul Amr, or the command form of the verb. Right? So we would have done the first 2 exercises last week, and we would have started exercise 3 and exercise 4, I believe. All right, or exercise 3 at least. So we're going to start back here. As I said, this is basically right. We are seeing how you take the present tense verb and we extract from it the command form. All right. So let's read what we have here. So we have anta. Anta taktubu. So we have the verb kataba, yaktubu, taktubu. Right? So anta taktubu. Anta taktubu means you, masculine singular, write. You write. Okay? Present tense. Now, just a reminder here, the command form is only second person. Right? We have no first person command, we have no third person command. Only second person. Right? So when we say command form, we don't have to specify, is it first person command, second person command, third? No, we don't have to specify that. Command is only in the second person. Okay? So then the only other thing we have to look at now is whether it's what? Singular or plural. And well, of course, dual, we will look at later on. All right? So right now, we're just looking at whether it's singular or plural. Right? And of course, if it's masculine or feminine. Right? So we have those variables to look at, right? So here is singular masculine, anta taktubu. So from taktubu, right, we drop out the harf of we drop off the harf of mudare. Harf mudare or the present tense letter. Okay? How many present tense letters are there that we add on to the past tense to get the present tense? We said there are how much? Anybody? What letters do we add at the beginning of a verb to make it present tense? We have the ya, kataba, yaktubu, we have ya. Then we also have what? Ta, what else? Anybody else? The hamza and the aleph. Noon. Noon, correct. The noon. So we have 4 letters, right? Either kataba yaktubu, taktubu, aktubu with the hamza and the aleph, or naktubu, the noon, right? So these are the present tense letters, harfum noria. So why are we recalling this? Because these are the things which will be dropped off. Which will be what? Dropped off in the command form, right? Now, when you deal with, as I just said, with the command form, we only deal with second person. Second person, okay? So with second person, the only letter we have at the front, second person, present tense, is only what? Is only ta. So taktubu, taktubina, taktubuna, right? For plural, and taktubna, feminine plural, right? So it's only ta at the beginning of the present tense verbs, all right? So if we say that the command form is only the second person present tense, then the only letter we have to deal with there is the ta, right? So with the command form now, we drop out the present tense letter, which we said in the case of second person will only be the ta. So we're dropping off the ta at the beginning. This is the first move we're making to come up with the command form. We drop out the ta, right? The second move is that we take the vowel on the last letter and we turn it into sukun. See that there? Have the sukun at the end here. See? So the first thing, drop out the ta. Second thing, sukun at the end. All right? This is for the singular. Masculine. All right? And the third thing is that we add what? We add the hamzatul wasl at the beginning. We add the hamzatul wasl. All right? So you have taktubu. From the taktubu, you get what? Uktub. Uktub. Now we said hamzatul wasl, right? Hamzatul wasl doesn't have a vowel in it normally. Doesn't have a vowel by itself, right? Or but we read it with a vowel depending on what vowel comes after it. What vowel comes after it, right? So if a Dhamma comes after the Hamzatul Wasl, then we put a Dhamma on the Hamzatul Wasl. All right, so in this case, we have Kataba Yaktubu Uktub. So the Hamzatul Wasl in the beginning there takes the Dhamma because of the Dhamma on the Ta. All right, now if what comes after it is a Fatha or a Kasra, then the Hamzatul Wasl takes a Kasra. All right, this is the case of the command form of the verb, command form. Okay. Of course, we also have Hamzatul Wasl in other scenarios. For example, the Alif Lam, definite particle, right? So we have Qalamun al-Qalamu. In that case, the Hamzatul Wasl in the Alif Lam takes a Fatha. So that's something different we're talking about. Here we're dealing with the command form of the verb, the three-letter verb, then it will take the Dhamma, all right? Any questions so far? We take the Dhamma if the letter after it is what? The vowel after it, sorry, is a Dhamma. All right. Right. Any questions so far? All right. So let's look at the second example here. Anta tadkhulu. Anta tadkhulu. Anta tadkhulu. Again, what do? We drop off the ta. So you get, and then we add, drop off the ta, put a sukun on the last letter, and we add the Hamzatul Wasl. So from tadkhulu, you get what? Udkhul. Udkhul. Let's see these other examples here, and you all can read after me. So you're going to read it, and you all read after me, okay? Inshallah. Ukhruj min al-fasli ya Bashir. Ukhruj min al-fasli ya Bashir. اثنين اكتب درسك يا علي. اكتب درسك يا علي. ثلاثة اسجد لله. انظر إلى ذاك الجبل. جبلي. انظر إلى ذاك الجبل. اقتل هذه الحية يا عمي. ادخل يا حامد.
ادخل يا حميد.
اشكر ربك. اسكت يا ولد. اكنس هذه الغرفة. All right, so let's look at a second scenario here. So the first scenario, the verb in the middle, sorry, the letter in the middle of the verb, the root letters, the middle letter carried a Dhamma, okay? So the Hamzatul Wasl took a what? A Dhamma. Let's see what happens in the other scenario here. Anta tajlisu. Anta tajlisu. You sit. You sit. All right. So the same rule applies. We drop off the ta and we put a sukun on the last letter, and then we add the Hamzatul Wasl at the beginning. Right. So from tajlisu, you get what? Ijlis. Ijlis. So you see here the Hamzatul Wasl takes a kasra. Why? Because the letter, the next letter, the second letter after, has a kasra. Okay, the middle letter carries the what? The kasra. So when there's a kasra, the Hamzatul Wasl takes a kasra. Another example, anta Tagsilu. And from tagsilu, we get igsil, igsil. Okay, kasra, kasra. All right. Is that clear with everyone? Please recall the rule for Hamzatul Wasl. Rule is that if there's anything before it, this Hamzatul Wasl becomes silent. Okay, so if you say Iqra waktub, you will be Iqra is two commands, right? Read and write. Read and write. So read is Iqra. Okay, you have a Hamzatul Wasl at the beginning. So there you would say the Hamzatul Wasl with the kasra, Iqra, all right? But the uktub, you would not say the Dhamma and the Hamzatul Wasl. Why? Because there's the waw before it. Wa and wa. All right? So you won't say wa uktub, you would say waktub, waktub. Why would you say waktub? You would say waktub because the Hamzatul Wasl is silent. All right? So ikra waktub. You're not here, just giving an example. All right? All right, so let's look at these other examples underneath here. And you can read after me, please. Ijlis huna ya Bilalu.
Huna ya Bilalu.
Ijlis huna ya Bilalu.
Huna ya Bilalu.
اغسل وجهك بالصابون بالصابون. اغسل وجهك بالصابون. Right, wash your face with soap. Sabun is soap. Right. ارجع بعد ساعة.
بعد ساعة.
ارجع بعد ساعة.
ارجع بعد ساعة.
Right, so irji' is a command form of the verb raja'a. Raja'a, which means to return. Raja'a yarji'u irji'. Irji'. Right, so this is to return. So the command here is to return ba'da sa'atin, after 1 hour, after an hour, after an hour. Right. رقم 4. انزل من السيارة يا أخي. انزل من السيارة يا أخي. All right. So this is from the verb nazala yanzilu. So say after me, انزل من السيارة يا أخي.
Yeah.
All right. So means this nazala means to come down or descend or disembark. In the case of a vehicle or a horse or a camel, it means to come down or disembark. Right? So inzil min sayyarati means come out of the car. Right? It literally means descend from the car, oh my brother. Right? But in English we won't say descend from the car. We would say come out of the car or disembark. Right? رقم 5 قال الله. Right, so you have the verb qala. Qala means he said. All right, who said? Allahu. So Allah here, lafzul jalala, is the fa'il, the doer of the verb. All right. Now here you have a shadda on this lam. So therefore this lam goes joins straight to this lam. So we say qala, qalal, qalallahu, qalallahu ta'ala لموسى عليه السلام اضرب بعصاك الحجرة. So what does Allah say to Musa? قال الله تعالى, Allah the Most High says or said, Allah the Most High said, لموسى, to Musa عليه السلام, may peace be upon him, اضرب. What did Allah say? اضرب بعصاك الحجرة. So اضرب is from the verb ضرب. ضرب يضرب. يضرب. Okay. ضرب يضرب is to hit. All right, so the command is what? Idrib. Idrib, hit. Bi'asaka, with your asa. Kam is your, right? And B is with. So bi'asaka, with your asa, al-hajara. The hajar. What is the hajar again? The rock. Okay. What is asa? What did Musa hit the rock with?
Stuff.
Staff, right? The stick or the staff. All right. So idrib bi'asaka, hit with your staff, al-hajara, the rock. All right, so you see the command form being used here. All right, so we're looking at the next context now with the middle letter carrying a fatha. All right, so let's look at the example here. Anta tadhhabu. So you have the verb dhahaba, yadhhabu, tadhhabu. All right, dhahaba, yadhhabu, tadhhabu. So anta tadhhabu, you are going, you are going. From tadhhabu, you do the same thing, drop out the ta, put a sukun on the last letter, and then you add the hamzatul wasl. Right? So you get what? Idhhab, idhhab, idhhab. Right? So let's look at the other example there. Anta taftahu. Anta taftahu. And from taftahu, you get iftah. Drop out the ta, put a sukun on the last letter, and you add the hamzatul wasl. Right? So from taftahu, you get iftah. Sukun on the last letter. All right? Iftah. Now, with the fatha on the middle letter, you see fatha on the middle letter, what do you put on the hamzatul wasl? You put a kasra below it. All right? So just like you have a kasra on the middle letter, you put a kasra on the hamzatul wasl. When you have a fatha on the middle letter as well, you put a kasra on the hamzatul wasl as well. Okay? So from tadhhabu, you get idhhab. Taftahu, iftah. Right? Let's look at these examples here. See after me. Iftah kitabaka ya Ibrahim.
Ya Ibrahim. Ya Ibrahim.
Iftah kitabaka
Ya maka.
ya Ibrahim. Open your book, O Ibrahim. Ihfaz darsaka. Ihfaz darsaka. احفظ درسك. ثلاثة اقرأ هذا الدرس. اقرأ هذا الدرس. اذهب إلى المسجد. اذهب إلى المسجد. اركب دراجك. Where's دراجك? Sorry, دراجتك. Where's دراجة? دراجة.
Bicycle.
Bicycle, right. So اركب دراجتك. دراجتك. Ride your bicycle. ستة العب مع أختك يا إسماعيل. العب العب مع أختك يا إسماعيل.
يا إسماعيل.
From the verb لعب يلعب. لعب يلعب. العب. Right? Remember we said we need to learn the vowel and the middle letters. So that's why we need to learn past tense and present tense together. Okay? So this verb is la'iba with a kasra below the ayn for the past tense. For the present tense, the ayn now takes a fatha. Okay? So you get la'iba yal'abu. La'iba yal'abu. Alright? Of course, from the present tense is what we form the command form. So from yal'abu, tal'abu, you get il'ab. You drop the ta, put a sukun on the last letter, and then you add the hamzatul wasl. Okay? Il'ab ma'a ukhtika ya Ismail. رقم 7. Say after me. اشرب ماء باردا. اشرب ماء باردا.
اشرب ماء باردة.
Drink cold water. Drink cold water. Right? 8. أين مكتب البريد يا أخي؟ Where's مكتب البريد? Buddy? مكتب البريد.
أين
Post office. Right? مكتب, the office. And al-barid is the considered mail. All right? Or post. So أين مكتب البريد? Where is the post office? يا أخي, oh my brother. Right? So what's the answer? أنا لا أدري. أنا لا أدري. اسأل ذاك الرجل. رجلا. اسأل ذاك الرجل. So this is from the verb سأل يسأل. يسأل سأل يسأل means to ask. Okay, اسأل, ask. Come on here, right? Ask. ذاك الرجل. That's ask that man. Okay. أنا رجل غريب. أنا رجل غريب. Right? So ask that man, I am a stranger. رجل غريب is a stranger, meaning a wayfarer or somebody who not from this area. All right. So somebody asking, where is the post office? He say, Ana la adri, I do not know. Is'al dhaka rajula. Ask that man. Ana rajulun gharibun. I am a stranger. رقم 9. ارفع رأسك. ارفع رأسك. ارفع رأسك.
سكة.
Right. So رأس is your head, right? So رأسك, your head. Your head. ارفع means to raise or to put up, right? So ارفع, raise your head. Raise your head. ارفع رأسك. ارفع رأسك. Next one. 10. ارفع صوتك. ارفع صوتك.
ارفع صوتك.
Right, so just like you raise your head, like actually physically raise your head, you can also raise your voice. Okay, so ارفع صوتك, raise your voice. All right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Hujurat, لا ترفعوا أصواتكم, do not raise your voices. So the plural form, رفع يرفع ترفع. Right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says لا ترفعوا أصواتكم, don't raise your voices. فوق صوت النبي, above the voice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So here the command here is ارفع صوتك, raise your voice, right? 11. قال الله تعالى في القرآن. قال الله تعالى في القرآن. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Of course, when you're pausing at the end of the ayah, put a sukoon on the last letter. All right. 10. Next one. قال الله تعالى لموسى عليه السلام اذهب إلى فرعون. اذهب إلى فرعون.
فرعون.
Right. So this means go to Musa, he's telling Musa, go to Fir'aun. Go to Fir'aun. وقال
قال
اذهب
اذهب
أنت
أنت
وأخوك. اذهب أنت وأخوك. Right, so we have two special verbs here, and these are common commands. These are common what? Commands. But they don't follow the pattern which we just learned. All right, there was a slight difference. Don't worry, it's very easy. All right, so you have here anta ta'kulu. Anta ta'kulu. And then we also have anta ta'khudhu. Anta ta'khudhu. These are the verbs akala ya'kulu ta'kulu, which means to eat. All right. So you eat. Anta ta'kulu. Then we have anta ta'khudhu. So akhadha ya'khudhu. Right? Yeah, which means to take. To take. All right. So from these, right, we drop off the ta, but we also drop off the hamza. The hamza also falls out too. All right, and we do not add any hamzatul wasl. All right, so look what happens. So from anta ta'kulu, you get kul. Kul. All right, anta ta'khudhu, you get khudh. Khudh. So the ta drops out and the hamza drops out, and there's no hamzatul wasl added. However, we still have the sukoon on the last letter. Okay, so just bear this in mind here. Just on a side note, you would find while we go through the Arabic grammar, right, that we come across different rules in the grammar, in surf, and so on, right? And as one brother was saying once that every rule has an exception, right? So in Arabic language, in fact, in many sciences in Islam, you have a rule and then you have exceptions to the rule. All right. So it is said every rule there's an exception. Right. So that is a basic rule. Every rule is an exception, and even that rule also has an exception. Meaning what? Meaning that there's one rule that does not have an exception. Right. So think about it. Every rule. So this is a rule, right? Every rule has an exception. So that's a rule. Every rule have an exception. So you look at all the rules, each of them have an exception, right? But that general rule also has an exception, meaning what? There's one rule that there's no exception, right? And that rule is what? La ilaha illallah. There's no God but Allah. That rule, there's no exception to that, all right? So all the other rules in terms of the sciences of there are exceptions, all right? So when we look at, so just keep that in mind when you go through the grammar and so on, and we say, okay, mudaf, mudaf ilay, mubtada, khabar, this has to be marfu, this has to be nasb, and so on. Remember that they may come across later on when you go to more advanced Arabic grammar, that we see that there are exceptions, all right? So we just went through a pattern, how we form the command verb from the present tense, all right? And we already see that there's an exception to it here, right? So this is one of the exceptions. So we're looking at so this is a nice table here, all right, where we can fill out. We have the mudare, al-madi, mudare, and amr. So we can try practicing. This is a page, almost a whole page, a half page here and half page on the next side. All right, so we can go through a few of them. So the instructions here, da al-amra min al-af'al al-atiyah. So place or write in the command form from the following verbs, al-af'al al-atiyah. So it's very straightforward. Follow the same pattern we have, right? We didn't do any other exception other than these two here, right? Akala, ya'kulu, kul, and akhada, ya'khudhu, khudh. All the other verbs that we are dealing with here, you would follow the pattern, which is what? We drop out the ta or the harf mudari', the present tense letter, and we put a sukun on the last letter, and we add the hamzat al-wasl in the beginning. All right? Straightforward, yes? So let's look at it. All right, you have qatala, yaqtulu, qatala, yaqtulu. All right, so this here, second person, will be what? Instead of yaqtulu, we will say taqtulu, taqtulu. So they kind of, in the book, in the text here, they kind of be a little tricky. They didn't put the second person, they put the third person. All right, so we have to know, in any case, we're dropping out the harful mudari'. So we don't have to change it to that time. We can just drop this out one time. All right, but really, it's from the second person we are forming the command form. All right, so we drop out this, we get qaf, ta, and lam. We put a sukun on the last letter, so the lam will have a sukun. All right, and then we add the hamzat al-wasl in the beginning. So what do we get for the amr? We get uqtul. This is a ta here, right? Stick a dhamma here, sukun here, dhamma here, right? Sukun here. Uqtul. فالسمع يسمع, you get what? اسمع. اسمع. We can mess with this writing here. Kind of real skitty. All right, so ذهب يذهب اذهب. اذهب. All right. رفع يرفع ارفع. All right. جلس يجلس اجلس. Good. So I want some volunteers to practice now. Who go in first? Probably not follow this here. We reach jalasa yajlisu ijlis. Jalasa yajlisu ijlis. Next one. Darasa yadrusu.
Odorous.
Odorous. So the Damani Hamza was odorous. Next one. Fahima yafhamu. Ifham. Now, the only thing we have to think about, other than the pattern, is whether it's a Dhamma or a Fatha. Simple. Sorry, a Dhamma or Kasra. Dhamma or Kasra below. For the Hamza al Wasl. All we need to do is look at the middle letter to see if it's a Fatha, Dhamma or Kasra. Once it's Dhamma, we put a Dhamma on the Hamza al Wasl. Once it's Fatha or Kasra, we put a Kasra on the or below the Hamza al Wasl. Okay? Good. Now, next one. Alima ya'lamu. Alima ya'lamu. Command for this one. I'lam. Now. Next one. Hafidha yahfadhu. Hafidha yahfadhu. Ihfadh. Now. Shariba yashrabu. Ishrab. Now. Sajara yasjudu. Usjud. Khalaqa yakhluq. Khalaqa. Sorry, khalaqa. I read it wrong. Khalaqa yahliqu. Khalaqa means to cut, like you shave your head or cut your hair, right? Khalaqa yahliqu.
إحلق.
يحلق. نعم. Right. Next one. ركع. ركع means to perform a ركع, right? أو ركوع. To perform a ركوع. ركع. يركع. اركع. اركع. نعم. كسر. كسر. يكسر. نعم. يكسر. شكر. يشكر. اشكر. نعم. غسل يغسل. اغسل. نعم. Of course, we have some more on the next page, which inshallah we can do for homework. All right. طبخ. يطبخ. أطبخ. Right. فتح. يفتح. افتح. And so on. So please, very, very straightforward. Please attempt it for homework. Any problems? Of course, we have the two special ones at the end here. أكل يأكل. كل. And أخذ يأخذ. خذ. All right. Now we have a note here, which we would have explained before, where we have it in writing here, right? Hamzatul Amri, Hamzatul Amri, Hamzatul Wasl. So the Hamza of the Amr is what type of Hamza? Hamzatul Wasl. فَلَا تَكْتُبُوا فَوْقَهَا. So do not write above it, أو تحتها, or below it, علامة. Alamatul Hamza. That is this, the Hamza sign, right? إلا في الفعل الرباعي. So you don't write this Hamza sign, which is the sign for Hamzatul Qatr. Remember the second type of Hamza? You have Hamzatul Wasl, right? And you have Hamzatul Qatr. Hamzatul Qatr is what could take a vowel by itself, right? Is a letter, right? Like what we have here. Akhada. Akhada is a letter, all right? Hamza, it takes a vowel, all right? So whether you have something before it or not, you read this vowel and this Hamza. Whether it comes at the beginning of a sentence or you have something before it, right? So you would read this Hamza, as is here, right? So that's Hamzatul Qatr. So the saying here that the Hamza of the Amr is Hamzatul Wasl. So you don't write this symbol above it, right? Except fi fi'l al-ruba'i, that is for 4-letter verbs. We haven't done 4-letter verbs yet, but inshallah we will do that later on. So far we were dealing with 3-letter verbs. Verbs that are 3 letters. Later on we will see 4-letter verbs. All right? Ruba'i. Inshallah. So ta'ammil ma yali. Observe what follows. So let's just read this. Just follow in the books, please. Uktub ad-darsa. Uktub ad-darsa. But remember we said, if the sukun comes in contact with the shadda, what happens? We have to, in the case of a amr, for the command form of the verb, what do? We read it with a kasra. Read it with what? Kasra. Why do we put the kasra? Because we have the sukun clashing with a shadda. We know a shadda is really a sukun on the first letter and the vowel on the second letter, right? This shadda is a double letter, all right? So we really have 2 sukuns clashing, 2 sukuns clashing. So we can't have that in terms of reading. So what do? We put the kasra below the first one. So uktub ad-darsa would become what? Uktubid darsa. Uktubid darsa. Okay? So say after me, uktubid darsa. اقرأ القرآن. اقرأ القرآن. اشرب القهوة. اشرب القهوة. العب الآن. العب means to play, right? الآن, no, right? العب الآن. So let's see what they're making a second note here. اكتب يا حميد. حميد اكتب. All right. Okay. So you have the verb, the command form, uktub, which means to write. But if there's something before it, what do? Again, the hamzatul wasl becomes silent. So what do we say? Ya Hamidu uktub, right? Ya Hamidu uktub, right? So you join straight from the dal to the kaf, right? Ya Hamidu uktub. So we don't say Ya Hamidu uktub. You join straight to the kaf, right? Ya Hamidu uktub. Each this you have, right? Udukhul wajlis. Udukhul wajlis. So this is similar to the example I gave before. Ikra waktub. So in the case of Ikra waktub, the hamzatul wasl for Ikra is pronounced, right? But the hamzatul wasl for the for uktub, that is not pronounced because you have the waw there. So similarly here, you have udkhul and you also have ijlis. Udkhul and ijlis. But because you have the waw here before the ijlis, or because you have anything before the hamzatul wasl, the hamzatul wasl becomes silent, right? So it's just a reinforcement of that concept here. So udkhul wajlis. Udkhul wajlis. You all understand that? Basically, exercising the hamzatul wasl. When you read it, when you don't read it. Beginning you read it, in the middle, no, you don't read it. Okay? Ifham, qala li abi ifham. My father said to me, understand. Okay? So how do you read this together? Qala li abiftam. Abifham. So you go straight from abi to ifham. So you say qala li abifham. Qala li abifham. Okay? Any questions on this? Any questions at all? All right, so the next one, Iqra ma yali. Not the hamzat al-wasli. Just a second. All right, so basically the same thing here. How do you read the hamzatul wasl, and if they comes after it the alif lam? Okay, so for example, they have here kul washrab, right? So it's a command. All right, so which is what more or less we were saying above here, right? But we get a little more practice in it here, right? So you have two commands, kul and ishrab. So kul is from akala yakulu kul, which means to eat. And then you have shariba yashrabu ishrab, the drink, right? So it's kul washrab. Kul washrab, eat and drink. Next one, ikra ad-darsa wafhamhu. Right? Read the lesson and understand it. Right? So we will say ikra id darsa wafhamhu. Wafhamhu. So this hamzatul wasl is silent here. All right. And of course you have the two sukoons clashing here, right? So the sukoon for the command form and the sukoon for the shadda in ad-darsa. All right, look, we have it here. Iqra waqtub. Iqra waqtub. Read and write. Iqra waqtub. So I'll leave the rest of this. So inshallah, you all can practice it. Practice reading it. Any questions? All right, so the next exercise, رقم 7. اقرأ ما يلي. Read what follows. يا حامد اذهب. يا حامد اذهب. So how do you read this? يا حامد اذهب. يا حامد اذهب. Oh Hamid, go. يا إخوان اذهبوا. يا إخوان اذهبوا. Right? So you read it. يا إخوان اذهبوا. Right? Normally you would put the command first. اذهبوا يا إخوان. Right? But I think what they're doing here, you're trying to show, or rather to introduce in the various or the other forms of the command. All right. So we said the command is only second person. All right. No first person, no third person. And in the second person, we have singular masculine, singular feminine, plural masculine, plural feminine. So this is what we are doing here. We're introducing the plural masculine, singular feminine, and plural feminine. All right. So you have here the singular masculine, which we did in previous exercises. Ya Hamidu idhab. Right? Simple. Idhab. Then we have here now, Ya Ikhwanu, O brothers, idhabu. Look what's going on here now. The same pattern more or less, but we add on the waw al jama'a. Waw al jama'a. This is the plural waw. This is waw we add on for when we want to make a verb plural. Okay? Remember we had Dhahaba, and we want to, Dhahaba means he went, singular, okay? To make it plural, we add the waw al jama'a. Dhahabu, this is past tense, all right? Past tense. Dhahaba, he went. Dhahabu, with the waw al jama'a, they went, past tense, right? So that's the plural, right? So present tense, you have Dhahaba yadhabu, he goes, yadhabu, with the ya added on, right? So to make it plural, you say yadhabuna. Yadhabuna. So the waw al jama'a is added on there together with the noon. Right? That noon was added on as well. So yadhabuna. They go. Masculine plural. So just as that, you have here idhab, masculine singular. You want to make it plural, you say idhabu, you add the waw al jama'a. Waw al jama'a. Okay? So this is what is added on here to make it plural. So this is the command form of the verb, the plural masculine command form of the verb. So from idhab, you get idhabu. Idhab, idhabu. What's the difference? You add the waw al jama'a. Now, because you add the waw al jama'a, the ba no longer has a sukoon, the ba has to take a dhamma to match the waw al jama'a. Okay? So idhab, idhabu. All right. So this is the masculine plural. Let's look at the feminine singular now. You have Ya Aminatu, O Amina, idhabi. Idhabi. All right. Then you have here Ya Akhawatu, idhabna. Idhabna. So this one, the only change really is that you take off the ta, because the plural, the present tense verb for second person feminine plural is tadhabna. Tadhabna. So all you're really doing here is dropping out the ta and you add in the hamzatul wasl. So you get idhabna. So instead of tadhabna, you get idhabna. All right. Any questions on this? So inshallah, we would go over this part again, number 7. We'll start back with this next week, inshallah. And then we will do, of course, the examples lower down, right? So the homework for us will be to go through number 6, number 5, and number 6, which is in the previous pages, right? Just read it over, and of course, you fill out the tables and you fill out the spaces accordingly. Right? Any questions? All right, so we'll close off with dua kafara Surah Al-Asr. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات تواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر السلام عليكم